All right, I am so thrilled to be here today with Paul Everett. Paul is a dear friend of mine and the first guest on the Living Resource Project. This is a compassionate communities project that serves to remind us that we all have what it takes to show up for the grieving and dying among us. And it serves to remind us as well that we really do need each other in this journey of life and death. So Paul, I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, it's awesome to be here. I love it.
I invited you as my first guest because I know we share this dream of shifting the narratives around death and grief in this culture.
Yes.
And how we meet death and grief really determines our experience of living and dying. So I think you and I will agree that when we contemplate death and how to meet death, it's actually the best way to inform how to live well. I'd like to start with a 3-candle blessing. So we'll just get comfortable where we are. You can feel your body where it's touching your seat and your seat holding you. And I'm going to light this first candle here to honor all past beings. This candle is to honor all past beings, our ancestors, 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 any other beings that have been here before. And the second candle I'd like to light in honor of all present beings, all beings that are here now on this planet, all human beings, all more than human beings. This second candle is to honor all present beings. And the third candle I'm going to light to honor all future beings, all beings that haven't arrived yet here in this place. This candle is lit to honor all future beings. And may the conversation that you and I have together, Paul, today be in honor of all beings everywhere. May it be so.
Amen.
So, Paul, I was wondering if we could just start off by you sharing a little bit about what you do to support the dying and their people.
Friends and colleagues of mine started calling me the Valley Walker. They say you seem to be able to walk with people through their valleys. And so for me, it's like when I'm walking with somebody through their valley of grief or even through their valley of before they're passing. So either way, we're going to go through the valley, and some of them we release onto to the next realm, and other people I stay in the valley. We talk, we listen. I let them tell stories and bring them to the point of, okay, I think I can climb that mountain now. And I wave farewell and turn around and look who else is in my valley. And interesting enough, where I live is considered the mouth of the Fraser Valley. So that's a good place to be. I'm right at the start of the valley.
Very fitting. So you identify with the title of Valley Walker.
At first I didn't, but now it sort of grows on you, you know? I mean, and I think the reason I do also enjoy it is people think that, oh, you're in a valley. You're really in a valley. Valleys are very productive. Valley soil is very fertile. And so there's many positive things. It's not just, you're living under this, I think people that are churchy background, they all remember Psalm 23, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, everybody, thinks that's all for funerals. But it's not really. It's just, and then we don't live in this dark shadow of death, you know, when you change your concept of death as well, because when you see not death as an enemy, but as a friend, that changes. So you have to change the way you think. But yeah, I'll live with the Valley Walker.
I love that. I love that. Can you share a little bit with the people that are listening and watching about the path that led you to this work that you're doing today as a Valley Walker?
It goes way back. I mean, and I never am ashamed to say I'm 65, you know. I'm actually, I always tell people when they say, oh, how old are you? I said, well, this earth suit is actually 65 years of age. I said, I am an eternal spirit
Yeah.
having a human experience. And the only way you can have a human experience is pick up one of these suits on the way in. And I said, so yeah, I said, I've hung out in this earth suit for about 65 years, but sort of in previous to this, I was a pastor. Wow, that's been like over 20 years ago. And you know, when you're a pastor and traveling and speaking, you meet all sorts of people and situations. And I really came to the point where I realized soon into being a pastor, there are two of the greatest experiences you can enjoy is the arrival of a human being. I was there for the birth of both of my children. It's absolutely mystical and phenomenal feeling when that child takes its first breath, you know? And then I also, as I went on and I was with people in their dying weeks and then their point of passing, to watch and be there when somebody takes their last breath and leaves. Very powerful. Like again, it's mystical to me, but I just said it goes beyond an ability to describe. You just have had to be there. And so that has always put me on my journey and started leading me on my journey is to focus on that whole aspect. And then when I left the ministry, different story, longer tail, this seemed to follow me. I would just be with people, end up being with people. I would be working a job, sitting down with an executive oil tycoon. I was doing fundraising, and all of a sudden they just open up their heart, talk to me about their grief and what they're going through. And I was just like share and receive their story. And so for me, I was like, yeah, this is just part of the journey. Am I a trained professional? I always tell people I'm not a graduate yet, but I attend the University of Life. The only challenge with the University of Life, they don't give out diplomas.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you graduate from the University of Life, you're probably dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. So catch me in the next realm. I'll show you the diploma.
that sounds good. Oh, that's so interesting. I just so inspired by how it just seems like this role of Valley Walker has just seemed to like it follows you. It's part of you. It's like people
Well,
just
it's almost like it found me, you know,
okay.
it chose me, you know, I didn't choose it. And I think that for you and many of the end of life doulas that I've met, it's like, you know, it's not like you chose that. It's
Yeah.
like you get the feeling I think it chose me. I think I got chosen, you
Yeah.
know, and just trying to get the comfort. And then for me as well, my journey was when I took the end of life doula course, and that's how you and I met.
Right.
And I just became so fascinated even more, you know, and just now being able to work with people as well that are going through grief in all different phases and stages. It's just a learning process, but it's exciting. That's a little bit in the nutshell there.
Yeah, and I hear that so often from people when they talk about working in community death care, be it in grief or death, just this idea of like being called. It's almost like there's something so much bigger than themselves is calling them to be of service. I love that idea of a calling. It's almost like a ministry.
Yeah, really. I think for me, it's to help redefine death. I mean, there's so many fears. I remember when I took the end of life doula course, and I think the majority of the people that were in the class, when you started by saying, you know, why did you take the course? It was a very large percentage that said, I'm terrified of death.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I don't know what's next. And I thought, wow, you know, oh my gosh, you know, like people would take time because this is an intense course, but their purpose was personal as opposed to, you know, how can I help others? So, I mean, for me, it's like, yeah, we really have to redefine the whole thing. And I think you and I have had conversations about, you know, the fact I don't like when people say it's the end of my life or it's the end of life. It's not. It's not. This life we live on this planet is so brief compared to where we've come from and where we're going, you know? And both are exciting, the birth and the leaving. I tell people, I explain it this way. I say to them, when I was in my younger years, I used to travel all over the world to speak. I would be in India for 3 weeks. I'd be in Africa for a month. And then it would come to the end of my journey and I would be at the airport and it's all of a sudden like, okay, I'm going home. And the energy I didn't have sort of returned and the excitement of I'm going home. I'm going home. Oh, I'm sitting on the plane. Oh, they're revving the engines. Oh, they've given the signal to take off. Love that feeling, going home. But the next best feeling is when the pilot says, folks, we're getting ready to land. And you look out the window, and I used to like to fly in at night, and you see the runway lit up, and you're going to land, and you know people are going to be there waiting for you. And that, for me, is like what this whole thing should be about. It's like, we're like you often say, it's like, we're just walking people home.
Yeah.
I'm just walking you through the departure gate and you get to fly out with excitement. I want everybody to leave with excitement, because you're going home. That's all you're doing. It's just going home. Get on the plane, buckle up, head out.
I love that metaphor. Thank you.
Hmm.
I love that. So now we know what you do. We know what has led you to what you do. So I would like to now ask you if there was one thing that you would like the dying and their people to know, what would it be?
Um, I gave a lot of thought to that, and I came up with this. If I could say one thing to everybody, is don't be guilted or pressured or feel you forced into this experience in the sense of you want like society. Try to get my thoughts around here. I don't want people to be guilted or pressured into having this experience and handing it over to the trained professionals.
Mm.
Sometimes when it comes to death and dying and grieving, it's like, and I'm not putting down trained professionals. I mean, we need the medical teams, we need the psychologists, psychiatrists, and counselors. But when it gets to you personally and your family and those around you that are special to you, don't hand this experience over to the trained professionals, where you feel like you have to do it by the book, or this is what society says is the way you die. This is what society says the way you should grieve. And these are the norms. It becomes so sterile and cold. Rather own the moment. This is your moment, sometimes I'll tell people, I'll use this. I said, when you're in this moment, think of the one word, kiss. Keep it sacred and special.
Oh, oh,
Sacred
oh,
and special. It doesn't have to be, extravagant,
yeah.
but do in this moment. The person that's dying, I often say to them, what do you want final words? What do you want your final words to be? What do you want it to look like when you breathe your last here and then head off to breathe your next in the next realm?
Mhm.
And to those afterwards, how do you want this moment to look? As a pastor, I used to do the same thing with the funerals. Don't do it according to, do it the way that you look back and go, that's special. That was special. I mean, I already know for me, you got, my poor partner and family, because I said, I want to be surrounded by joy and laughter.
Yeah.
When I head out and I said, here's the deal. I said, I want to know the moment I'm going to breathe my last because I want to start telling a joke. Leave before the punchline is given out.
Oh.
You have to know. I'll catch you on the other side and you'll hear the punchline,
Yeah, you gotta
I
come
mean,
find me. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, my daughter says, she says, Dad, when you pass, your memorial or whatever we do to remember you will be like a 3 hour. I said, oh my God, Emily, please don't do that. Why would you do? No, 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 no. She said, like, sort of the normal stuff is 20 minutes. The rest is all the stories we've heard about you. And, everybody, oh, I got a Paul story for you. I said, that is keep it sacred and special for
Love
me,
that.
And that's what I want people to know. It's like you own it.
Yeah.
The government doesn't own it. I mean, we all do the right thing. I mean, you don't toss the body on the front lawn and wait for garbage on Tuesday to pick it up. But I mean, yeah, it's a thought. Uh, deep. But it's just like make it your own. You know, we spend so much time trying to make weddings so special and everything. We make birthdays, and by the way, the older you get, every birthday becomes special because your family thinks it's your last one. But it's just like, but why can't we make end of life here special and memorable, you know?
Love that. I think it's just, I mean, that's really what good quality palliative care is about, is like just that honoring of life right up until that last moment. And I love what you were sharing because it really speaks to the importance of people playing out their lives right until that last breath and according to them, right? And like you say, not handing it over and understanding that, sure, those amazing people that work in healthcare have a very important role, but really when it comes to dying, it is a social experience and it's a human experience, and it has a medical component, but it's mostly what we make it. And we can dream into these ways of how to surround ourselves with the people and things that really, like you say, keep it sacred and special. I love that. Yeah. Beautiful. All right, Paul. So I have another question for you. I mentioned dreaming. So what are you dreaming into as you look ahead on the horizon and you think of the future of community death care? What do you think is needed in the future for us to meet death well?
I think it's what you're doing, what the people with, the grief well are doing. The end of life doulas that I've met, and that's one of the things I've really appreciated about, this whole walk is it's opened. Like sometimes I used to think, is there anybody else doing this? Like, does nobody care? And then you meet all these people, like our mutual friend Tim, and I mean, he shares stories about helping widows and widowers after, and it's just like, he's got remarkable stories and yourself. And you're just like, wow, I want this to multiply where we put the humanity back in the whole thing. We are real people with real situations. And I think we have to be very, very cautious about when the government says, oh, well, we'll take care of that. We'll work with you. I always remember Ronald Reagan saying this in a speech. He said, the worst thing you can ever hear is a politician walking into your situation and saying, good news, the government's here, we'll take it from here.
Right. Yeah.
Run. And I'm not putting down the government. It's just, don't pass away these things. Grab a hold of them and say, you know what? Why can't we learn? I would love a course like this taught in school.
Oh, yeah.
Like, like like parents, and I feel for them, like, oh my God, how do I talk to people about death? How do I talk to children about death? And what about a grief? How does a child grieve? I mean, I think now with us bringing in so many people from war-torn countries, these
Ooh.
children, stuff they've seen and heard, they're grieving. They're sitting there grieving. And we're just, oh, okay, your kid. But if we had courses to teach and help people, I to the not that we have to again make it so cold and do this, do point one, point two, point three, point four, teach them this. More or less, it's like how do you just listen?
Yeah.
I say to people that primarily what I do is I actively listen. Those are people say, I've had people say, well, what courses did you take? I said, you don't have to take a course on how to listen. I said, it's mindful listening. It's not listening like the majority of us do. I can't wait till Tracy takes a breath because then I can say something. But it's just mindfully. I say to myself, okay, Paul, you have to make room for silence over solutions.
Oh, that's a good one too. Yes.
Oh, like so often, I got to feel like I got to have the solution for it. Nope.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'll just be silent. Who taught me this to me was my daughter, who is now 35. This was when she was 16. So she came to me and said, Daddy, I've got a problem. And automatically, boom, put the father hats on. I'm going to solve this for you. And she looked at me and she said, Dad, I don't need you to solve it. I need you just to listen. Oh, blew me right out of the water. I don't need you to solve it. I just need you to listen. And I've used that in so many situations, because the other thing that I think you need to do when you're in stuff like this is you need to learn the discipline of not having the final word.
Mm.
That's a discipline, to learn how to just zip it. I don't have to have the final word. My opinions and my perspectives change all the time. You should hear some of the stuff I used to believe when I was a kid. It's amazed I got this far, but it all changed. So I practice the discipline of, Paul, you're here to listen. You're not here to solve. Let's just be silent. Sometimes we just walk in silence, and that's okay. When I'm with people that are grieving, it's just like, and they'll say, wow, that was powerful. Did I say anything? No. We just walked. We'll walk, especially with the men. I find with men, they're not so quick. I find they're not so quick to say, oh, I'll show you my feelings, get the Kleenex and stuff like that. They can be very, okay, because I've got to hold my together. And I often will say to the man, I said, I know you're trying to hold your together, but I said, what this is about is a shift. You know, there's going to be a shift. I'm going to help you in a shift of your thinking for grief and what you've gone through and what you're walking through, you know? So I said, we're not keeping our together. We're keeping our shift together. Because that shift will hit the fan, and it's all about the shift, especially for men, to think that I talked to somebody about my grief. I used to know as a pastor, if a man showed up in my office for counseling, I used to say to him right off the top, you didn't make this appointment, did you? No. I said, I bet you. Yeah. I said, so what do you want to talk about? I don't want to talk about it. I said, do you want to go for coffee? Yeah. Do you have time? I said, I always have time for coffee. And we would go over and sit in a Tim Hortons, and then he'd spill.
Yeah, not his coffee.
No, not his coffee.
Yeah.
So it was just, you had to think differently,
Yeah.
But again, like my whole perspective is, let's just listen. Let's just listen. And if it's quiet, that's not a bad thing. It's not a negative. We've been taught, we get up in the morning to an alarm clock to listen, and the first thing we do, put our headsets on, and we listen to some motivational guru, and then even, get in our car, we have to listen to music with words. I love, and I've learned to love the silence. And I think if we can learn to walk alongside people, and that's what I hope, more and more of us will just care enough about our neighbor, care enough about our colleague that they're going through something. It's just to say, let's go for a walk. Let's have a coffee, and let them see that you actually are willing to take time just to listen, if somebody could just listen to me,
Everything. And we can all do it. We all have ears. We can do it.
My mother used to say to us as boys, there's a reason God gave you 2 ears and 1
There you go.
mouth.
Yeah.
Shut up.
There you go.
Listen. Okay, Mom. Okay.
Over the course of the years, I've been really sitting with these same things, like how do we show up for ourselves? How do we show up for others? I've really distilled it down to like listening is love. It's that simple, because it's like when we can be grounded and heart-centered and really listen, then you feel with people, and then you have empathy, and then you can take compassionate action. But it's like that listening is really love. And I really wish more people understood the medicine of listening, and then the generosity of offering that silence. That's just, again, in this culture
because it's a gift you're offering to people.
Yes. It's such a gift.
And I always refer back to, we are, social media is great, but sometimes I just shut the social media off. I'm actually going to try something this fall. And so you guys are the first to hear about this. I have decided to take 3 days, and I've already talked with my partner. I said, I'm going to take 3 days where I'm going to do a 3-day fast. I am not listening to any music. I'm not listening to any tapes. I am not reading everything. I am going to spend 3 days in complete silence. It's a bit of an experiment for me. I like to experiment on me before I try it with other people. But I just feel deeply in my heart of hearts that will bring me to a new level of listening.
I bet it will. I'm
You know, a lot
curious.
of
I'm
time.
gonna reach out to you, and I'm curious about what you're gonna discover, what will be revealed in that
Well, I
silence.
can't tell you while I'm in it.
No, I won't bug you then. Let me know when you're out, when you got time to
That's
talk.
what I love about you. You got a great sense of humor.
Go for a
Not a
cup.
lot of people are sharp, but you are sharp.
I appreciate you sharing your vision and what is needed. And so we'll end off with one final question for you, Paul. How do you see us meeting death with more acceptance and grace?
A little bit like what I shared at one point is if we see death as it's part of the journey of getting me back home. I'm
Mhm.
just going home. I did everything I was supposed to do. Uh, I know not everybody is, into Christian thought, but I always remember on the cross that Jesus said, at the prayer before he went to the cross, he said, Father, I have done everything you've called me to do.
Mhm.
And then when he was on the cross, he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and his spirit left him.
Mhm.
That's what I would like to see from it. Just you come to the end and you say, okay. Now, there are cases where it's like, you think, wow, they died too young. Oh, I wish they'd been here a little longer. But then if we could all come to a point in life where we say, okay, this is it. This is the moment. I have completed everything, every assignment that I'm supposed to do.
Mhm.
Into your hands, I
Mhm.
commit my spirit.
Mhm. I love that. So what do you think that looks like? Because I just think of, I kind of laugh sometimes when I consider, I know no matter how prepared I am to meet death, that there will always be that to-do list,
Oh,
right? Always. So to-do list aside, I'm curious what you mean by like feeling complete. Like according to you, what would a complete life feel like according to you? I'm gonna put you on the
I
spot here.
often I often say because I started into, but I just got so busy I couldn't work with you with your book club on
Oh, right. Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at your last. This is if this was your last
A
year,
year to live.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have 1 year to live. I've taken that and personalized it
Mm,
and gone from if this was my last year to live. What if today was your last day?
mm,
Because there's no promises of tomorrow anywhere. What if today was your last day? And I often will lay on my bed at night, put my head on the pillow, and think, that was a good day. Did I get everything done? No. But the older you get, you realize you'll never get everything done. But did I tell people around me I love them?
there you go.
Did that little nudging? I should call them. Did I call them? Did I do all those things? Okay. I will often say to my partner, who's 11 years younger than me, so it scares the patooties out of him when I say this stuff. But I say to him, you know what, Ben? If today was my last day, please tell people he died a very happy man.
Beautiful.
I said, I've lived a full life. Whereas he says, you probably lived 3 or 4 lives compared to most of us. But I said, I've lived a full life. I said, I had a good meal tonight. I'm good. If this is it was great. I loved it. Enjoyed almost every moment. I think if people can come to that sense of saying, yeah, okay, then it's not a big, okay, you're going to, people say to me, it's too bad we couldn't know what date we were going to die. I said, that'd be ridiculous. We'd be negotiating, you know? Oh, I got one more business deal to do. Oh, I got one. I want to do this and I want to do this. Like, yeah, you don't know. So make sure you live life to the fullest and you enjoy it and you make the apologies you should have made,
Mm,
and say, I screwed up. I'm really sorry.
mhm.
I suffer from the virus of being a human. Yeah. So it's
I love
just,
it. Go ahead.
yeah, just you live each day as if it's your last. I mean, I live like today's my last day, but I plan like I'm going to be living to 120.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not going to, and there are days all of us go through. It's like, oh, I wish this was my last day.
Right.
I want out of here.
Yeah.
So I mean, I had a guy in my church who was dying of cancer, and I went over to see him. He passed at home, and I went over and sat on his bed. I would have great conversations with him, and I came in one day. It was just there was so much going on at the church. There was so much disruptions, and I was sitting there, and he looked at me. He said, I heard some of the stuff that's going on. I said, yeah, well, we don't need to talk about it. He said, no, I just said to my wife Joyce, I said, I bet he's jealous. I said, jealous of what? I'm leaving. You stuck here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I said I would trade with you today. I would trade with you. But yeah, I mean, folks, enjoy life to the full. Life was meant to be enjoyed. And we need you, the person, just to be you, not what you do. I don't care what you do. I never ask people when I first meet them, oh, what do you do for a living? I could care less what they do for a living. Who are you? Who are you? So at this moment, start discovering who you are, why you're here, what you want to accomplish. That's good enough. I don't need you to show me your diplomas. Just be you.
Love that
That'll
message.
that'll change us all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea. You've got me thinking now about scrunching up my to-do list for the rest of the day and instead reaching out to somebody I know and tell
Yeah.
them what I think.
Or just going for a walk. I
Yeah.
worked with a researcher here in BC, Dr. Michael Hayden. Phenomenal when it comes to Huntington's
Mm.
disease. He is a brain and a half. I mean, just he used to sit and I used to raise money for him for his projects. I remember him sitting in front of his research team, and he said, when you come to the place where you don't know what else to do, you don't know how to handle this experiment you're working on, I want you to stop what you're doing and either go to a museum or go for a trail walk or walk beside the water and don't think about anything.
Mm.
It's that then the creativity comes. And I thought, that is good advice for all of us. I'm so stressed out with this. I'm so, I can't
Mm.
handle this. Just go for a walk. You know, I mean, you can't always walk out of a board meeting or something like that, or leave your office, but just say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to have my own time. I'm 65. I'm retired.
Yeah, you don't have those board meetings anymore to sit through. Lucky you, something to look forward to.
Well, that's why I joined your team, because it's like, oh, okay, well, if I don't have anything to do, Tracy will have something for me to do. So,
Team Tracy, I'll keep you busy.
of course.
Well, I'm so grateful to you, Paul, for being my first guest. And I love how there's some imperfection in this interview and bumps, but there's just so much gold and so much sweet content. And I just so appreciate you. I have so much gratitude for you and the important work you're doing as a Valley Walker. And I'm so grateful you're my friend and that I can call you up and say, hey, will you be my first in this living resource project? So just want to extend just an enormous amount of gratitude for you for being you and for
Oh,
showing
well,
up to do this.
as I always say to you, when Tracy asks me something, I just, well, who says no? It's never done that before. Let's try that one. Okay, sure.
That's why I asked you. I'm like, he won't say no.
Yeah,
He told me that. So just as a little fun thing, Paul knows me that I just believe so deeply in the power of gratitude. This idea that we live in this world full of death and grief and heaviness and heartache, and yet there's always something to be grateful for. And in fact, I every day on the way to school, I ask my kids, "What are you grateful for? Give me 3 things." So gratitude is such a powerful way that we can connect to life. And so I have this little box. It's called Gratitude. It's a set of cards. It's created by the School of Life. So if you're interested in getting these cards, it's the schooloflife.com. And what I'm going to do is just pull a card. They're these sweet little tiny cards. I'm going to take them out of the box and I'm going to pull a gratitude card for us so that we can leave this conversation on a note of gratitude. So the card I pulled, it's a picture of some feet, it looks like on a cement sidewalk. And it says, every year, if we just stay in one spot, there are at least 2 weeks of perfect weather. So there you go.
That was created by somebody in Vancouver for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I consider
Aw,
it a privilege and an honor to
thank
be
you,
your first guest.
Paul.
Thank
Oh, such an honor. And for you, anyone out there watching, there is going to be notes on how to contact Paul the Valley Walker if you're interested in grabbing a coffee or walking with Paul. And yeah, Paul, until we meet again, lots of love to you.